the other playoff game yesterday, and I said this, it felt like this was supposed to be the way that Oregon-Ohio State went, was the Peach Bowl with Texas and Arizona State and Atlanta. Texas finds a way to eke it out. In double overtime, there's a targeting call we'll talk about later in the show, or a non-targeting call we'll talk about later in the show. But if you're a Texas fan, you're happy you won, but you're also like, why did it take double OT against a team that we were favored by 2 touchdowns against? Like, how am I supposed to feel today is, I think, the question I'd be asking if I'm a Texas fan. It's the classic, like, Alonzo Mourning gif or GIF, whatever, however you pronounce that word for, yourself. Yeah, that's great we won, but it took 2 overtimes. Yeah, that's great we won, but we couldn't run the football. For me, like, there's plenty of reason to be upset today and to feel bad. Just what I said. I mean, you blew a lead. That's the first part of this. You couldn't run the football in a team that's prided itself on running the football, quite frankly. Really, let's say this. You probably should have lost that football game, if we're going to be real here. Played poorly enough to lose that football game, especially down the stretch. Did not look great up front in the trenches with Cam Scadaboo. Now, Scadaboo's a 101. All right, he's a gallon jug player of the year for us here on the hard count. Dude's a baller. I mean, he proved his worth yesterday, just so we're all on the same page. Still, having a guy run for over 100 yards on you and receive for darn near 100 yards on you, to have that kind of all-purpose numbers and then throw a touchdown, like, yeah, that doesn't inspire a ton of confidence in what you are going forward, playing 2 RB1s in Henderson and Judkins in the next round. Offense nowhere to be found, middle 2 quarters. So all those things, I listed all the bad. And if that's the way you want to view this thing as a Texas fan, completely understand. Completely understand. You kind of pile on there with the Ohio State situation, like, okay, you had a bad day at work, you go home, and then you remember, oh, shoot, I have a massive presentation due the next day. That massive presentation is Ohio State waiting for you in the next round. But this is my feel on the way that I would approach the Texas situation if I'm a Texas fan. I really think it's a choice with how you want to feel. Like with anything in life, there's usually a lot more options than you maybe perceive on the front end. If you're a Texas fan, yeah, you played bad for 3.5 quarters. Yeah, you didn't look great against a team that you were supposed to beat the brakes off of, but you won. You had a bad day, didn't play well, played poorly enough to lose, but you won. I think you look at Quinn Ewers, and he's kind of, to me, a little bit just complex to figure out because of how he's been so up and down this year. And you watch the Michigan game, you're like, this guy's a freaking first-round pick. And then you watch a lot of these other games, and you're like, I don't even know if we can, feel confident in our passing game when we get into a shootout with Ohio State. If you're upset with Quinn Ewers, I don't blame you because of the lack of timeliness or the lack of consistency maybe during the game. But just what I said a second ago, like, as much as he wasn't timely during the 4 quarters, in overtime, dude was super timely. Like 4th and 13, no other quarterback on your roster is making that throw for you. And this is not me dunking on Arch Manning at all. He's the future. He's going to be awesome. But here's how I feel, man. I think the window for the Arch Manning experience is kind of past. Like, if you were going to go to Arch Manning to be your guy going forward here, that's kind of just a conversation we've had consistently on this show because of, the lack of, production, I suppose you could say, for Quinn Ewers going forward here for Texas. I think that we've kind of passed that window because if it was going to happen, it would have been against this team. It would have been before he played Ohio State. And I can already hear the comment section say, well, JD, they went to Tua Tagovailoa, did Nick Saban, in the national championship game for the second half. That's awesome. It worked out great for Alabama. Not really like a tremendous blueprint for success. And again, I'm a pro Arch Manning guy, but like no other quarterback, I believe, is checking out of what they checked out of or audible the way they audibled on 4th and 13 with your season on the line. You don't get a first down, you lose to win the football game to Matthew Golden, or to extend the football game to Matthew Golden. No one else is doing that. College football sickos, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. This show, The Hard Count, college football, year-round ball, and nothing but ball. Now, this show is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Daily fantasy, easy to use, easy to play, easy to withdraw what you win when you play at, no, sorry. It's, yeah, okay, my bad. Sorry, Cato. I'm throwing us off the loop here, dog.
Nothing I haven't done at the round table, man.
You're too gracious to me, brother. Too gracious. Okay. Here we go. Good to go?
Yeah.
Amazing. 3, 2, 1. College football sickos, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. On this show, The Hard Count, it's college football, Nothing but college football all year round. Now, this show is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Daily fantasy, easy to use, easy to play, easy to withdraw what you win. Follow us here. Use code HARDCOUNT at prizepicks.com. We're going to do our very best to make us all some money. Now, even if we don't, when you play with code HARDCOUNT at prizepicks.com, make yourself $50 in promo funds to then go ball out the rest of this playoff. So again, code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups, gets you $50 in promo funds at prizepicks.com. We appreciate y'all subscribing. We appreciate y'all using that code with our friends PrizePicks. So yeah, is the Quinn Ewers experience kind of like driving sticks sometimes? Sure. Like you're humming for 1 second, the next you're stalled out. Totally feel that. But I really do feel like at the end of the day, you don't win that game without Quinn Ewers. And his stat line, the way that it looked versus the way that it felt, two very different things. But to throw for over 300 yards, account for 4 touchdowns, like Quinn Ewers is your guy. He's your guy. He's got the experience, got the battle scars. And I think long term in this college football playoff, like I don't see anyone else giving you a better chance at success. Now, the thing that's frustrating if you're a Texas fan here, kind of going in that glass half full, glass half empty situation, half empty is like, well, why are we so inconsistent? Hear that. Glass half full is like, well, we still find a way. The Texas traits, dude. The Texas traits just continue to show themselves. And the talent at Texas, I think, is good enough to compete with anybody. Now, do they have more talent than Ohio State? Ohio State's probably got the best roster in college football, so that's a tough discussion to have. But even with that being said, man, like when there's urgency behind this team, they look different. And when they're urgent, I think they're aggressive. When they're pushing the ball downfield, overtime, a great example. The shot downfield to Gunnar Helm. The shot to Matthew Golden, obviously, to like we just said, to extend the game. When they have to have it towards the end of the game to get them in field goal range. Yeah, it sucks to miss the field goal, but I do think it's worth noting you were at least in position to hit that field goal. Like you set Bert Auburn up as well as you could, and I think that's a good kicker. You feel good about depending on him going forward. But like all that's to say, they're good when they're urgent. They're good when they're aggressive. They're going to have to be aggressive when they play Ohio State. Like, man, if you play the way you played in those, middle, really 3 quarters against Arizona State, against Ohio State, like, it's over. It's going to look a lot like that Rose Bowl did. Like, over before it really even gets rolling. There should be some urgency, is my point here. There should be some aggression. You should see what Oregon did the first time around against Ohio State and say, okay, you know what? Maybe we are equipped to do that. Maybe that's something that we can make happen. If you're not urgent against this Ohio State team, then, like, that's a whole other discussion. But I have to believe seeing what Ohio State did to Oregon will create some urgency. Being able to escape, to call a spade here, the end of your season against Arizona State in double overtime should create some urgency. If I'm a Texas fan, a lot of bad, a lot to be disappointed about. But I still think there is something to be said for having a bad day at the office, having a bad day overall, and still finding a way to get it done. Those traits for Texas, ultimately, I think, won that football game. The traits for Texas are something we're going to see, I think, a lot of these national title teams have going forward. Not calling my shot for Texas to win the national title, not doing that at all, but I do think that the resiliency, the grit, the just find a way to get it done kind of quality, that to me is why Texas won that football game, and that's what national title teams have.